Hi, it's Steve from PartSelect. Today we're going to show you how to change the drum felt on your dryer, and it's a really easy job. All we're going to need is a 1/4" nut driver, a Phillips screwdriver, a small flat blade screwdriver, and maybe a putty knife. Let me show you how we do it. Now, depending on the style of dryer you have will dictate how you disassemble. On the style that matches the front load washer, we simply need to remove the top panel using the 2 screws at the back. On conventional style dryer that has a back guard and console on it, we'll need to remove that first before we can remove the top panel. Now, before we begin this repair, the first thing we'll need to do is to disconnect power to the dryer. So if it has a cord on it, simply unplug it, and if it's hardwired, we'll need to locate the fuse panel or breaker panel and disconnect the power there. We'll also want to pull the dryer out far enough away from the wall that we can access 2 screws that secure the main top to the dryer. So using a 1/4" nut driver, we'll remove those 2 screws. And then just pull back on that top panel slightly, about 3/4 inch, and then we can lift it off. Well, next we'll need to remove the control panel on this model. And there are a couple of plastic tabs inside, one on either side, that we need to depress, and then we can push that control panel forward. And then just lift up across the top, enough to disengage the tabs on that, and we can pull it away. Now, I would suggest that we disconnect the harness to that interface. Just take a flat blade screwdriver, depress the little locking tab, disconnect the harness, pull it through that opening, and then we can set that aside. Now, next we're going to remove 2 1/4" hex edge screws that are securing that access panel at the bottom. And then just tilt it out on the bottom, let it drop down, and unhook the top lip from below the front panel. Then we can set that aside. Now that we have the lower access panel removed and the control panel removed, we now have access to removing the front panel, and it's held in place with 4 1/4" hex edge screws, 1 in each corner, as well as 2 Phillips screws on either side of the lint screen opening. So we'll remove those 2 screws first. We can then close the door. And we'll next want to locate the door switch harness and disconnect that. And you may need a flat blade screwdriver to get in and detach that locking tab. There's one on either side of that harness. So just pry those open enough that the harness will separate. And then we can remove the 1/4" screws. We'll take the 2 bottom ones out first. Then you'll need to support that whole front panel and door assembly as you remove the last 2 screws. And just lift that away and set it aside. Now, next we'll need to remove the front bulkhead, and it is held in place with 4 1/4" screws, 1 in each corner, as well as 2 down on the blower housing. And they're typically a brassy colored screw. Those 2 will have to come out. And if your model is an electronic dry, such as this model, you'll also need to disconnect the harness to the dryer sensor. So using a flat blade screwdriver, we're going to again release those locking tabs. We'll remove the 2 screws in the blower housing first. Should remove the lint filter, set that aside. Remove the 2 bottom screws on that bulkhead, and then just loosen the 2 top ones because they have keyhole slots for that housing to sit in. And then we can lift up on that bulkhead enough that we can clear those top screws, then rotate it out of the opening, and then we can set that aside. Now, next we're going to release the tension on the belt by sliding it off of the idler pulley. So we'll just reach in across the top of the outlet of the blower housing until you locate the idler wheel, and we can push it to the left And just roll the belt off of it. Then next we'll need to pull that drum out, so we're going to remove 4 1/4-inch hex edge screws that secure that top support. We should be able to then lift that support up enough that we can pull the drum forward. And you can slide the belt completely off of the drum. That'll make that easier to pull it out. And then just temporarily put 2 of those screws back in to hold the cabinet in place. Now that we have the drum in a suitable position to work on, we'll remove the rest of the felt that is attached to it, and if need be, use a putty knife to go in between the felt and the lip of the drum just to break it free. And just pry it away. And then you can discard the old one. And then inspect that edge where you remove the old felt and remove any excess that may have been left behind. And once we've got it all cleaned up, we want to make sure that there is no residue from any solvent that you may have used to clean it up. And then we're next just going to run a bead of adhesive along that lip. Now next we'll take the new felt and we're going to just open it up, fit it into that groove, and then apply it all the way around, keeping tension on it so that it stays nice and tight. And make sure you keep that stretched enough so that we're not coming up short. And then just go around the perimeter again and make sure that we have it firmly seated all the way around. And then we'll let that sit for about 20 minutes to a half an hour for the glue to set up, and then we'll start our reassembly. And when we reinstall the drum, I'll show you how the belt will fit around the idler pulley and the motor pulley. They both tuck underneath the idler pulley, around the motor pulley, and then the belt will go around the drum. Now to reassemble, we'll remove the top support again, and then we'll lift the tumbler into the cabinet. Once we have it part way in, we can drape the belt around it. And then we can use the belt to support the drum as we lift it back into place. And then we're going to set it up on top of those rear drum rollers. Once that's positioned, we can again put that support across the front. As well as the 2 screws through the front of that support. And then we'll make sure that we've got the drum properly in position, and then we'll reinstall the belt. Now the belt will come across the bottom of the tumbler, below the idler wheel. Now if we pull the idler wheel towards the left, that will allow us enough slack in the belt to wrap it around the motor pulley. and then back to the other side. So we'll just carefully turn that drum, make sure that it centers itself properly. And next we'll put the front bulkhead back on. So we're going to tuck it up under the front of that top support. And then we'll engage the 2 keyhole slots on the screws. And we'll also need to keep it up high enough that we can clear the bottom so it sits into place. Then you may need to lift up in the drum so that it clears the front rollers and sits down on those. We can then secure the bottom with 2 screws, tighten the 2 top ones, and install the 2 into the blower housing. And then reinstall the wire harness for the sensor. I will next install the front panel. So while holding it in place, we'll line up one of the screws. And once we've started the top 2 screws, we can put those in the rest of the way. And then install the 2 bottom ones. And we won't tighten those yet. We'll actually open the door next, and we'll install the 2 Phillips screws that go on either side of the lint filter. Tighten those securely. We can close the door. And we want to next make sure that the front panel fits square with the cabinet. And then we'll tighten those 4 screws. And next, we'll reconnect the door switch harness and make sure those locking tabs engage fully. We're now ready to put the lower access panel on. So we're going to tuck this lip in underneath the front panel. And then hold it up in place while we put the 2 retaining screws across the bottom. We're now ready to put the control panel back on and our main top. So first we'll feed the harness through the opening in that support and then attach it to the circuit board. Make sure that the locking tab engages. And then we're going to line up the tab in the bottom with that opening in the top of that support and line up the 2 tabs on the side. And then snap it into place. Next we can put the main top back on. So we'll set it over the lip of that support, lay it down, push it forward, and then install the 2 retaining screws. We're now ready to push the dryer back into position, reconnect the power, and our repair is complete. I told you it was an easy job. Thanks for watching, and good luck with your repair.